Every American will remember this day, October 18th. Yes, our democracy hanging by a thread. Did you see the horrific scenes inside the Capitol? Protesters in the Capitol Rotunda. It was a nightmarish scene. I've never seen anything like this in my life. And we must make sure that all of these people who are protesting in favor of Hamas, in favor of the Palestinians, spend the next 10 to 20 to 30 years in prison. Of course, that's not going to happen, and it probably shouldn't happen. I mean, look, it's a public building. They're in there. They shouldn't be. I think they need a permit to do that. The point is, it's like January 6th. It is. These are pro-Hamas protesters telling Israel that they shouldn't be fighting back. And it looks like they took over a portion of the Capitol today. That's inside the Cannon House office building. That's congressional property. We own that, actually, the American people. And they weren't done there.
Israel took the brave step of dismantling Israeli settlements in Gaza, handing it to...
Committing genocide in Gaza! Genocide in Gaza! And we're fighting it! We're fighting it! Senators, 800 international human rights lawyers called on states to intervene to stop a genocide in Gaza! Palestine, Palestinians need freedom! Freedom!
Wow! That looked to me like obstructing a congressional proceeding, an official proceeding. And they're throwing January 6ers in jail for a long time for this kind of stuff. What else did I see today? Parading all over the place, picketing inside a Capitol building. You can get big trouble for that if you're pro-Trump, if you're MAGA. But if you're anti-Semitic and you're rooting for the Palestinians, you get a great big pass in just about 99.999% of the cases. Again, what happens to MAGA? Look at it. Some people are in jail for 1,000 days and they still haven't been charged. It is un-American. It is so unfair. Two-tier system of justice. Hello. And actually, this illustrates it perfectly. January 6th. This happened on January 6th, right? Those people walking through, yes, like they're tourists. And you know what? I saw windows broken, and they weren't broken by Trump supporters. Antifa had a presence there. I know that from the Capitol Hill police chief. He testified as such. So that's January 6th. Let's put that next to the scene at the Rotunda today. All those crazy anti-Semites rooting for Israel's defeat. What's worse? I mean, really. Why is January 6th a day that will live in infamy, and today is Wednesday? Right? No big deal. Well, because the elites, the media, the mainstream Democrats, the culture, unfortunately, they agree with what the protesters on the left are calling for, a ceasefire. And that means Israel must stop defending itself. That means that Israel has to allow their people to be held hostage, allow their women and children to be gunned down. They really don't want Israel to exist. If you don't want Israel to defend itself, you don't want Israel to exist. And in a lot of people's books, that is anti-Semitic. And a quick review of the aftermath of what those horrible terrorists did. Women and children at that concert. Who guns down a concert, right? A crazed mass shooter. This time they did it with an organized team of crazed mass shooters. That village that they burned to the ground and found civilians, I mean, the elderly, and they gunned them down. And, of course, the hostages. Why aren't we hearing more about them, actually? Don't you? I mean, the whole world should be kind of worried sick. And I keep hearing about Israel has to they have to check themselves. One more time, January 6th versus the pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist supporters of today. Another reason why the January 6ers get the shaft. You know what they think of us. You know. Hillary said it out loud.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
Takes one and no one, Hillary. Unbelievable. That is a description of the hardcore left of the Democrat Party. Really is. Hey, I'll give this to Hillary. At least she could make herself understood. As she was saying that horrible stuff, people could understand her. But the man who got more votes than anyone ever in history, Joe Biden, this was him today in Israel.
You know, years ago, I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for him, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it. I'll wait later. I'm taking too much time, but the point is this.
The point is this. It's on the Biden family. Jill Biden, you got to fix this. You got to, this is a horrendous embarrassment to the country, to the Biden family. And yeah, I think the wife, the first lady, Jill Biden, isn't she a doctor or something like that? She's got to intercede. And don't throw Tony under the bus, you silly little story. Tony Blinken actually did spend a good chunk of his career working on the staff of Joe Biden. He has no business leading the State Department. You can't have a staff guy take a big job like that. That requires leadership. Hey, was anybody else confused when Joe Biden started throwing around the money today to the bad guys?
Today, I'm also announcing $100 million in new U.S. funding for humanitarian assistance in both Gaza and the West Bank.
Wow. This fiction that the people in Gaza and the West Bank don't support Hamas, it's hugely popular, hugely popular. Now, we want nothing bad to happen to women and children, but this is a myth that's perpetrated by this administration, that somehow Hamas is this renegade group that nobody supports. It has immense support. And isn't it fascinating that you can lose a job if you say all lives matter, but if you're Alicia Keys and you're a superstar singer, you can go into the gutter with Hamas and be cheering them on. This is one of the most powerful women in America, 27.1 million followers, and that actually equals power. And Alicia Keys says she wants to go paragliding in Israel. Get the joke? Paragliding, remember the first wave that hit that concert, those crazy lawnmower thingamajigs that actually were quite effective in taking people out. Where does this come from? I am convinced it comes from Barack Obama. We never knew that man. Ooh, what a deceiver all along. And now he's running the country. You know it, and I know it. And you know who his soldiers are? Well, on the front lines are these women. The Squad, AOC, and her histrionics, right? It's all about keeping her satisfied, or at least in check. She has more moral authority in the Democrat Party than Joe Biden. It goes for Ilhan Ilmar, the one who said, making jokes about 9/11, Presley, Tlaib, and the rest of them. These are the leaders of the party. And as far as 9/11 goes, no big deal. No big deal. Can you imagine after 9/11 if we started listening to Al-Qaeda, to actually what they had to say and believing them? It's kind of like what a good chunk of the media did when they talked about that hospital getting blown up.
According to Palestinian officials, hundreds of people at the hospital were killed by an Israeli airstrike.
The Palestinian Health Ministry is saying a hospital in Gaza City, in the northern end of Gaza, has taken a direct hit from an Israeli airstrike.
This was an airstrike. It was a deliberate war crime that Israel conducted on this hospital.
All right, Gaza fired that rocket and it came down on the hospital. These people are either completely gullible or completely lying. One or the other. Hamas, though, these people will actually use human shields. They will put military targets. They'll co-locate them with civilians. It's what they do. Now, having said that, there will be civilian casualties. Women and children will die tragically. It's a tragic offshoot of any war. It's one of the reasons why you don't want to fight a war unless it's absolutely necessary, because it happens in every war, every single war. There are war crimes. There's collateral damage. There's friendly fire. Even the best wars, the best clear cut, we know right and wrong, World War II, And from there, a little bit more murky conflicts like Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. For example, in Vietnam, it's estimated we had about 55,000 casualties. Something like 8,000 of them were attributed to friendly fire. Isn't that like a huge number? Isn't that disturbing? But that's what happens in war. War is hell. One of America's great heroes, Pat Tillman, remember the football player? I think he was with the Cardinals, right? And he left a very successful career to fight for his country. Killed by friendly fire in Afghanistan. Makes him no less a hero, but this is something that happens and will happen.
As the bombers circled 12,000 feet above them, instead of targeting the Taliban, the Air Force controller made a fatal mistake. He gave the B-1 crew the location of the U.S. soldiers as the target and, quote, improperly directed the aircraft over a friendly position.
Horrible, tragic, but that's what war is. And it happens whenever you go to war. I want to show you this. The border between Gaza and Egypt. Drop the banner. This was today. This photograph is from the last, actually, 36 hours. It looks pretty desolate, right? Now, they got 2 million people in Gaza about to potentially be shelled, right, and invaded. They want to get out of there. Egypt won't let them in. How about that for border control? Compare it to our situation, which looks like, I mean, doesn't this look like it should be the scene in Gaza and not the scene in Texas, right? Something is very, very wrong, very, very upside down. And as Joe Biden travels the world, well, mayhem and chaos follow. Beirut, that big uprising right outside the American embassy, just like the 1980s. Turkey, a huge anti-American, anti-Israel uprising. Just like our enemy, Iran, decades now, they're just as crazy as ever. Remember when they took our guys hostage? Well, they still hate America. They're chanting it all the time, and they're brutal to their own people, whipping them and stoning them if they step out of line. Right in the downtown plaza there. Yeah, these people have the confidence to issue a threat like this. They're telling Israel time is up. What does this mean? Time is running out very fast. If the war crimes against the Palestinians are not immediately stopped, other multiple fronts will open, and this is inevitable. What are they talking about? Isn't it time we kind of take care of them? You know what I mean?